Hello and a very warm welcome to all our participants. This webinar is being hosted by Vienna Advantage. I'm your host, Ravi Sinha, and I head global sales at Vienna Advantage. I'd like to start by introducing our audience to Vienna Advantage, a 15-year-old company based in Germany. Vienna Advantage was founded by former SAP AG employees, and today we stand proudly in comparison with any tier 1 ERP solution in the world, with the added advantage of being an open source platform. A very warm welcome also to my co-hosts, Marike Glombeck and Sridhar Iyer. Marike is a cloud architect at Oracle, specializing in the areas of security and analytics. Sridhar Iyer is the global head of pre-sales at Vienna Advantage and works in close collaboration with our partners and customers across the world. I'll be speaking with Marike and Sridhar about how a heterogeneous IT landscape in a group of companies inhibits growth and affects profitability, and what could be done for organizations to emerge from this situation. We will then present a compelling argument in favor of a single enterprise digital core based on the Vienna Advantage ERP and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Now, back to the topic of the webinar. Let me begin with Sridhar. What are your thoughts on the current heterogeneous IT landscapes in a typical conglomerate, Sridhar?
Thank you, Ravi, for the introduction and a warm welcome to all the participants. Ravi, if you see the illustration on the screen, it represents the reality at several of our customers before they adopted Vienna Advantage. What you see is a conglomerate using disparate solutions across its subsidiaries. Now, this landscape is a result of both organic growth of their businesses as well as growth through various acquisitions over a period of time. Now, what is striking is how heterogeneous this landscape is, how inefficient this makes the business, and how it results in a severe cash hemorrhage.
Now, Sridhar, what you said sounds quite serious and should be worrying to the CIO and the CFO, essentially. But what are the reasons for this heterogeneity?
There could be several reasons, but based on our experience, let me highlight a few of them. Firstly, a typical conglomerate has several divisions and each division may run its own IT systems. Then not all divisions are able to make the business case for a tier 1 ERP system. So the divisions that miss out often end up running on a tier 2 or a locally sourced ERP system that comes with its own limitations. And more importantly, businesses that operate in niche industries need to run industry-specific ERP systems.
Oh, very interesting. So in your experience, Sridhar, how has this heterogeneity affected Vienna's customers' businesses?
Well, let's begin with the issue of data and how important it is to decision making. A heterogeneous landscape puts data in subsidiary silos and reduces visibility at the group level. This is one of the most significant problems a CIO is confronted with. The next challenge is to be able to implement an enterprise-wide shared services model. Most present-day organizations, because of their fragmented IT environment, do not allow processes, authorization workflows, consolidation, or reporting across different subsidiaries. And any organization that has actually successfully been able to do so in a heterogeneous landscape bears a significant overhead of maintaining these interfaces that connect disparate instances. Another point I'd like to make is some of these disparate solutions may be deployed on-premise and some others on the cloud. And maintenance of these solutions across different deployment models adds to inefficiencies and costs. And lastly, I would say in several companies before we implemented Vienna Advantage, CIOs and CFOs struggled to deal with a large number of hardware, software, and services vendors across subsidiaries. They found it difficult to identify the right combination of vendors across these categories. And it was an onerous task to negotiate numerous subsidiary-specific maintenance and support contracts.
Okay, let me summarize what you just said. So it is data silos within the organization. Then it's the inability to truly implement shared services across the entire group. We then spoke about the complex mixture of on-premise and cloud-hosted application landscape. And finally, the sheer number of vendors that organizations have to deal with. Now, we have seen the magnitude of problems that such a heterogeneous environment creates. The question is, why did organizations end up in this situation at all?
Right. So there was a time when organizations selected a brand because they were not able to discern the value of alternatives that were available in the market. Although the choice did not make a business case, they perceived a lower risk by going with a certain brand. Now the fallout of this choice was that companies paid a premium for a solution which they believed would fulfill their functional requirements and apparently justify the overwhelming cost of licenses and implementation. It was only after years did the companies realize that they had to live with a partially implemented solution, and companies then looked out for alternatives to fill in the void, and this led them to a heterogeneous environment.
Yeah, no, sure. I think given the circumstances, it was a tough choice to make. Yeah, but now we're asking the question, how can organizations disentangle themselves and transition to a simplified landscape?
Well, the journey forward could begin with exploring the possibility of a homogeneous enterprise IT core that can be deployed across all the group businesses. Now, such a core would bring all subsidiaries on a single transactional data platform, allow enterprises to innovate on the edge, and augment the strong core with industry-specific enhancements.
True, true. This transition to a single enterprise core sounds like a significant undertaking. And the question then comes is how could the CIO and the CFO justify such an initiative?
A business case for such an initiative could include several commercial and technical benefits for the organization. Let me take you through a few compelling reasons. So first of all, moving from a fragmented landscape of data in silos towards a centralized transaction management system provides an enterprise-wide single source of truth. Next, when all subsidiaries are on a single enterprise platform, it becomes possible to implement cross-subsidiary workflows. Like I mentioned earlier, you have levels of authorization, you have shared services across the entire organization. And these shared services could include group finance, group procurement, group HR, and IT functions. Now let me list out some of the benefits of consolidating shared services. Uh, Generally, manual errors may be reduced or even eliminated in critical compliance functions such as financial consolidation and regulatory compliance. There would certainly be tangible savings in manpower and procurement costs. The economies of scale in procurement offer better bargaining power over suppliers. And these benefits together could easily justify such a transition initiative.
Absolutely. Now, Sridhar, could you share some anecdotes with us about how Vienna Advantage customers have approached such a digital transformation?
Sure. Now, I'd like to talk about our experience with one of our customers, a listed company, where the IT department operated like a classical cost center. One of the reasons Vienna Advantage was adopted across all subsidiaries of this group including the smaller ones, was because of the way we structured the licensing. Instead of every subsidiary capitalizing the perpetual license cost on its books, the group restructured a separate IT subsidiary that capitalized the cost of perpetual licenses and depreciated the license capex on its books. Now, all other businesses in the group purchased VIENNA Advantage ERP as a completely managed software as a service from the newly created IT division. Now, this meant that smaller subsidiaries paid a subscription fee that was proportionate to the few users that they had. And the IT division was able to apply a margin on its software provisioning cost and transition to a profit center. Now, another significant consequence of this transition was that the once reactive IT workforce was transformed into a thriving center of excellence that could generate intellectual property in terms of software design and development while being more attuned to the challenges faced by the business. Now, there were also smaller companies that did not employ a large IT workforce, and in those cases, of course, VIENNA Advantage or one of its partners could act as a trusted long-term partner to support the future growth.
Well, this was a very interesting approach. Could you also talk to us about other aspects of VIENNA Advantage that customers considered favorably?
Yes, our customers see tremendous value in VIENNA Advantage being a commercial open source platform that allows them to develop applications and functionality, extend the enterprise digital footprint to integrate with emerging solutions in the areas of Internet of Things, machine learning, robotic process automation, and other third-party applications. Then there could be businesses in a group that operate in niche industries and need to run industry-specific ERP systems. With VIENNA Advantage, organizations can realize or implement specific industry solutions developed on the core VIENNA Advantage platform and retain the homogeneity in their IT landscape. Now, this illustration lists out some of the industry templates that VIENNA Advantage customers have adopted. Just spare maybe a couple of seconds. So we'll go through the list. We have manufacturing, multi-campus management, luxury fashion, energy and utilities, healthcare, print and pack, travel, public sector, food and beverage retail, upstream and downstream oil and gas. So there are a whole lot of industry templates that our customers have adopted. Further, VIENNA Advantage, through its collaboration with strategic IS partners, has successfully developed templates for energy and utilities, print and pack, healthcare, travel and tourism. Now, this has allowed us to expand our footprint across these sectors in North America, in Europe, and of course, in Asia. One of the programs currently being undertaken is the development of a new generation billing system. This is again in electrical utilities. And this is in collaboration with the European Union and VIENNA Advantage and our strategic partner called 3TAV in Slovenia. We are associated with the European Union in this project.
Now, we have considered quite a bit in the last few minutes. And before we go further, I'd like to summarize the benefits of a homogeneous enterprise core with VIENNA Advantage. So when organizational data silos get eliminated, the entire group of companies then runs a single transaction management system. Of course, that's fairly apparent. Then with such a uniform system in place, organizations can truly implement group shared services and reduce costs. And as we have seen, the transformation of the IT department from a cost center to a thriving IP generating profit center is definitely one of the other consequences. And an open source enterprise platform that allows integration of the digital enterprise core with solutions developed on emerging technologies or even legacy applications that are irreplaceable alike. And finally, it's important to cater to specific industry process requirements using dedicated industry templates running on top of the same digital core. So now that we have seen a comprehensive set of benefits that organizations can realize with VIENNA Advantage, Sridhar, let's not talk about the VIENNA Advantage Cloud Suite and aspects such as security, reliability, and scalability that are crucial to a cloud-native enterprise solution.
Sure, Ravi. See, as an organization, VIENNA Advantage has always worked closely with strategic partners. A significant step in this direction is our partnership with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and the compelling value proposition this partnership brings to our customers. I'd like to invite Marike to talk to us about how Oracle Cloud Infrastructure augments our value proposition to our customers. Over to you, Marike.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Rafi and Sridhar, and hello to all participants also from my side. I'm Marike Glombeek and I'm working for Oracle as a cloud architect for the German market. My focus is to consult customers on a secure cloud architecture and analytics solutions. And I'm here today to speak about the Oracle Cloud and how it supports VIENNA Advantage's ERP SaaS solution to deliver the best performance and reliability to their customers. So the question is, why did VIENNA Advantage choose the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure to run their ERP SaaS solution? Well, the Oracle Cloud really is an enterprise cloud infrastructure. It has been developed to scale to the needs of large corporations, and it has been made available for everyone with the highest standards. I'm very confident to say we have a lot of experience with hosting in the cloud, with over 450,000 customers and partners running their solutions on the Oracle infrastructure. And of course, also Oracle's own applications run on Oracle Cloud. So overall, we are serving 90 plus million users with the secure cloud solution in 175 countries, and that number is still growing, of course. This experience and expertise gives our customers, such as VIENNA Advantage, the confidence that their core applications are running on infrastructure that has been used and tested by millions of people to give business continuity and reliability for their services. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So on this side, we see all the regions in which Oracle has data centers present. You can see the Oracle Cloud is present all over the world with the same level of service. We, of course, understand how data residency is important for VIENNA Advantage, as it will be for you as well when looking at expanding into other regions, for example. So also we are working on increasing that footprint with more and more regions being planned to come over the next months and years. But let's zoom in a little bit on what it means to host data in one region. Let's take Frankfurt for an example. The region is called Frankfurt, but the region Frankfurt actually consists of 3 data centers that are at least 15 kilometers apart from each other, which are all connected with the least latency connectivity. These different data centers within a region, they're called availability domains. So Frankfurt has 3 availability domains. And if we zoom in even a little bit deeper, within the availability domains, Oracle places servers in different areas of that data center. This separation is called fault domain, which allows for even more risk mitigation. This separation of different availability domains and fault domains that allows for high availability and disaster recovery architectures across data centers to make sure that business continuity and data security is just always a given. But what does that mean specifically for your data? Well, the storage of any availability domain is synchronized and mirrored across all 3 data centers, which means that no data loss can occur through redundancy of data. But now you're probably wondering, so does that mean if my data is saved in Frankfurt, that it could just be synchronized to a data center in the United States? That, of course, is a question we get a lot, and the answer is no. Oracle is indeed one of the few cloud providers that guarantees that our data or your data stays in your home region, in this example, Frankfurt, and does not leave the 3 availability domains if not explicitly wanted. This architecture also has more benefits, as we will see on the next slide. Thank you. So what are Oracle's promises regarding their cloud infrastructure? Well, we provide and also guarantee the best possible infrastructure to Vienna Advantage so that Vienna Advantage can just focus on its customers' needs and provide them with the best possible ERP solution. Our infrastructure provides Vienna with the highest levels of performance, reliability, and security. And this is how we do it. Oracle provides enterprise service level agreements, or SLAs. As one of a few cloud providers, we not only guarantee availability of our services, but also manageability and performance with service level agreements higher than 99.9%. This gives the guarantee for the best performance and business continuity of Vienna Advantage's ERP solution. Another point is that Oracle's data centers are using off-box network virtualization. What does that mean? This means you can have a physical dedicated host with no hypervisor overhead, which is the virtualization that is used in data centers. Off-box virtualization, which means that you have no noisy neighbors and no shared resources such as CPUs with customers around you. This is done by using something called core pinning. That means that you will not be affected by batch processing such as payroll or financial processing of other customers, as we really guarantee that you always have access to the number of cores that is booked for you. This can often be a problem with other traditional multi-tenant cloud providers that are not Oracle. And last but not least, our operations make sure that the applications on the Oracle Cloud are scalable, reliable, and secure. What is one thing that makes cloud so attractive? Well, you don't need to scale it to the largest utilization that you may only need once a month or once a year. No, the cloud is flexible, it's scalable. Depending on your needs, you can scale the services up and down for better performance and cost efficiency. And furthermore, Oracle keeps the underlying hardware and software always updated and secured, which allows our customers such as Vienna Advantage to focus on their ERP solution instead of having all the overhead that comes with infrastructure maintenance. Let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah, here we can see the different layers of the defense that the Oracle Cloud provides. And apologies if this is getting a little bit technical now. I just really want to briefly highlight some of the tools that keeps your data safe in the cloud. On the edge service layer, we have secured the cloud with DDoS protection as well as global point of presence for secure communication between servers. On the monitoring layer, we provide tools such as logging, user monitoring, which is important to be able to audit cloud activities and get compliance. On the virtual network level, the cloud is secured with security lists that act as a firewall. Here you can allow access from outside the cloud to specific services in a secure way. Of course, we also have IPsec VPN connectivity, which allows for an encrypted tunnel between the on-premise network and the cloud network for secure data transfer between the two. On the instance layer, we've already discussed a little bit about what off-box virtualization is and how that allows for no noisy neighbors and core pinning, which refers to the tenant isolation. This keeps your data and your resources separate from other customers. Furthermore, it is secured with SSH keys and other encryption tools. Now we get to the data. This is one point I would really like to stress, as data is the core of really any application. And it's not a choice in the Oracle Cloud because your data is always encrypted. And this includes encryption at rest and also in transit. And we really don't compromise on this point. Furthermore, customer managed keys mean that even if Oracle wanted to gain access to your data, it's impossible. So your data is really always safely encrypted and cannot be accessed by anyone, not even Oracle. Next slide, please. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about compliance regulations. I could tell you a lot about the security of the Oracle Cloud and how compliant we are, but of course that needs to be backed up somehow. these things are all audited on a regular basis to make sure that indeed we as Oracle, but of course also our customers, are always compliant to the highest standards. Here you can see a number of certificates that Oracle has, and our compliance programs span across various industries and services. And existing programs will also expand in scope, so new regions and new services will be added. This means that VIENNA's ERP solution really stays secure and compliant at all times. Next slide, please. Yeah, let's summarize what all of this means for VIENNA Advantage's ERP SaaS solution. Well, the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure provides guaranteed performance, reliability, and scalability, as well as best-in-class security to VIENNA Advantage. Without the overhead of worrying about infrastructure maintenance, VIENNA Advantage in turn can just focus on their core business, the ERP solution, to provide the best product to you. You as VIENNA Advantage ERP customer or user will not even notice that it's running on Oracle Cloud. All of this gives you the knowledge and the guarantee that business continuity and security is given from the bottom up. And yeah, with that, I would like to hand back to Rafi and Srida. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Marike. Very, very insightful. Thanks again. Now, before we resume, I'd just like to gently remind our participants, to those that haven't responded to the poll, to please mark your responses to the poll. It's still open and will be open for a while now. Okay, getting back, Sridhar, I'd like to come back to you with a crucial question. Now we've heard about the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and also talked about the VIENNA Advantage Enterprise Cloud. How do organizations move from where they currently are to a unified cloud-based digital enterprise core with VIENNA Advantage and the Oracle Cloud infrastructure?
Yeah, Ravi, the next slide, please. So I have two examples here. The first example is companies with diverse businesses. So you can see the illustration here. You could have different divisions involved in different lines of businesses. So the example here may be retail and telecom and maybe food and beverage or whatever. So generally for companies with diverse businesses, CIOs should have the option of a phased adoption of a common digital core by gradually moving individual subsidiaries and divisions to their preferred ERP landscape. Now, it becomes imperative on the part of the ERP vendor to provide the flexibility of a phased implementation across the group of companies. And the second example I'll take is groups that have relatively similar businesses. So in the illustration, you can see multiple divisions in similar businesses, and a practical and low-risk approach would be to define a global template which could be adopted across the entire group of companies. Right? So both of these methods of deployment or adoption, VIENNA has offered in the past to its customers, and the benefits can be realized at every stage, whether it's in a phased approach or whether it is, implementing the global template as a pilot and quickly having it adopted in all other subsidiaries. So that is the value that VIENNA Advantage brings to this.
Okay. So now that we have an idea of the benefits, it's also important to remind ourselves that the several competing priorities of the CIO and the CFO that they could now attend to. I mean, with a digital enterprise core settled, what are the other priorities that they should be looking at? So let's take a look on that. Now, the CIO should be looking at the digital enterprise security, especially in this era of distributed and mobile workforce, where organizations are increasingly vulnerable to security breaches. Then, secondly, CIOs could lead the IT division towards deeper involvement with business across the conglomerate and bring more value through initiatives such as enhanced analytics, or other areas of innovations with emerging technologies. For the CFO, one of the perpetual problems is the margin pressure, of course, and such an environment would obviously help reduce the overall total cost of ownership. Besides, such an environment would also introduce predictability in the core IT infrastructure and reduce the overall enterprise risk, which of course is the mandate of every CFO. Now, another very important consideration is a TCO, and that's because the tenure of commitment for an ERP solution is relatively longer, due to longer refresh cycles. So total cost of ownership considerations are all the more crucial in any ROI analysis. So I'd like to come back to Sridhar and ask him to help us deconstruct the total cost of ownership of such a unified enterprise digital core.
Sure, Ravi. See, the total cost of ownership is best explained by breaking down the project cost into a few components such as licensing, implementation, hardware and infrastructure, and procurement costs. And typically licenses come in two different models. One is a perpetual licensing model, and the other is a subscription model or the software as a service model. Now, in the first case, let's look at the perpetual model. Let's compare VIENNA Advantage with a competing tier 1 ERP solution. Now, VIENNA Advantage perpetual licenses could cost as much as 50% lesser than the comparable tier 1 ERP solution. And consequently, annual support, which is generally a function of the license cost, would cost much less as well. So perpetual licensing models generally comprise a per user license price and an annual support. So the point is that VIENNA is very, very much lesser in licensing costs in the perpetual model than its a comparable tier 1 ERP solution. Now, in the second case, let's look at the software as a service subscription model. Generally, for a tier 1 solution, their software as a service subscription model costs far, far higher than their on-premise and perpetual license model. Especially you consider a period of about 5 years. Now, in stark contrast, the VIENNA Advantage software as a service subscription licensing and support model costs less than its own perpetual licensing model. So this is the point that we are trying to make here. As such, as a perpetual model, VIENNA costs much lesser. But if you offer VIENNA on the cloud, software as a service, then we cost even lesser than that, okay, over a 5-year period. Now, we are able to achieve this because of our flexible infrastructure resource consumption-based costing. Let me explain this concept briefly. Now, due to the fact that infrastructure economies improve with scale, VIENNA is able to pass on the cost benefits directly to the customers, resulting in an effectively lower total cost of ownership. The support for the entire software as a service stack, which includes the ERP software infrastructure, is all provided through a single support window that makes it easier for the customer to report any problem, whether it is a software, hardware, or a networking issue. Now, this speeds up the resolution times and improves overall support KPIs. And in the process, VIENNA Advantage customers get the reliability and performance benefits that come with a reputed cloud infrastructure provider such as Oracle, our infrastructure partners. Now, in the next illustration, we look at the cost of procurement. Now, the cost of procurement is often overlooked. And you will see here that the cost of procurement in the software as a service model is again significantly lower. Now, this is again over a 5-year period, and In the perpetual model, you can see various components of procurement costs. It's licensing, it's hardware refresh, hosting costs, hardware maintenance, and management costs. So the savings obviously extend beyond just the 5 years. And VIENNA Advantage is that unifying platform that can support both large and smaller businesses. And of course, this consumption-based pricing makes it affordable for very small companies in your group of companies to be included on the common digital enterprise core. So the value comes in various levels. So we're talking about perpetual licenses, which is an option. Then you've got software as a service on Oracle Cloud. That's the next option. And we still are able to provide an excellent value proposition. Ravi?
Excellent. Thanks, Sridhar. Now, we've spoken extensively of the cost benefit VIENNA Advantage offers in terms of licenses, support, and hosting. You had mentioned earlier that implementation was the other component of the TCO. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, sure. So VIENNA Advantage offers the benefit of shorter implementation timelines. Shorter implementation timelines means lesser services component in any project. So any ERP implementation project, implementation services make up for as much as 60 to 70% of the project cost. Therefore, a shorter implementation timeline implies a quicker go live, longer productive usage of the implemented solution. Now, let me take a few examples in the past. There was a time when, it took 3 or 4 years for an ERP to be implemented. And even in today's context, there are several examples of re-implementation having to be done that is consistently taking 3 years and above. Now, the framework of VIENNA Advantage has the capability of a low-code, no-code technology that allows very fast development, enhancement, and implementation cycles. So again, this is yet another component that contributes to the higher returns. And this is particularly important when you look at companies wanting to adopt a global template across its group companies. So the shorter implementation time, the ability to quickly replicate and roll it out to different group companies, and adoption of that becomes that much easier.
Sure. And how does this movement to the cloud affect VIENNA's customers' ability to customize and enhance the standard solution? Now, the question is a movement to cloud some kind of a directional shift towards a more standardized ERP solution?
So let me answer the second question first. Is movement to the cloud a directional shift towards a standardized solution? Now, there are many incumbent ERP products, tier one products, which actually have hinted or pronounced quite clearly that they would rather standardize than help their customers adopt or fulfill their specific requirements. So in the case of VIENNA Advantage, we don't insist on a standardized ERP solution. On the contrary, VIENNA Advantage customers can enhance, customize, or develop add-ons to the standard VIENNA Advantage application. And these enhancements are preserved in the customer namespace, and due consideration is taken not to override these enhancements when a standard upgrade of the ERP or the core framework takes place. Now, this offers customers the best of both worlds. They significantly reduce their total cost of ownership and risk, and they're able to carry the nuances of their business processes through the customizations on VIENNA Cloud ERP. So what I'm saying here is we're not forcing customers to use our standard offering. They could if they want. We have several industry templates, but then they also have that wonderful option to enhance it as their businesses grow, as their businesses change, and they can do it with so much of ease and retain all the customizations even when there's an upgrade.
Excellent. Now, Sridhar and Marike have shared with us comprehensive insight into the reality and reasons for a heterogeneous IT landscape. The benefits of adopting a homogeneous IT landscape with VIENNA Advantage Enterprise Cloud Suite, the different adoption paths, of course, and a deep look into the total cost of ownership aspects. Now, before we take questions from the audience, I would like to list out the cogent reasons for organizations to consider moving to VIENNA Advantage Enterprise Cloud Suite. So first is, of course, the adoption of a unified digital core that enables companies to realize higher returns from their digital transformation initiatives. Then significant lower total cost of ownership, especially in the current environment of margin pressures that pretty much every business is encountering. A managed transition for different kind of conglomerates. Now, from those that have a very diversified business portfolio to the ones that operate in fewer industries and a more homogeneous group of businesses. Now, all the above, of course, is backed by a world-class infrastructure from Oracle that takes care of enterprise data security, reliability to ensure business continuity, and scalability to account for the future growth of their businesses. I would propose to conclude this session. A big thanks to Marike and the team at Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for the support. And on behalf of VIENNA Advantage and Oracle, I wish you all good health and look forward to interacting with you in the near future. Thank you very much.